Tucker Kraft had a huge game on Thursday Night Football. We'll tell you if you should be ranking him as a top 6 Dynasty tight end next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is the beginning. Stay tuned for later in the show for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're going to give you some players to promote from your bench into your starting lineups in week 2. We're going to talk about the Austin Ekeler injury and what that means for Washington's backfield. But Fabs, I want to start with the Packers offense. And I really want to start with Tucker Kraft, who led the Packers in receptions, yards, and targets in week 2. Should we be ranking him and valuing him as a top 6 Dynasty tight end already?
I don't know if I'm there yet, but he's close. Tucker Kraft is actually one of my breakout tight ends for this season. I mean, we're 2 weeks in. He's been very good. We'll see what happens. But it's funny, too, because when you talk about breakout tight ends, I mean, Tucker Kraft was a top 10 tight end last year. So, I guess I thought he had more of a ceiling, and so far so good. 124 yards, 24 fantasy points, had that touchdown. Certainly has a great rapport with Jordan Love. And it's funny because when we talked about the Packers coming into the season, it was like, which wide receiver is going to be the guy? Is it going to be Matthew Golden? Is it going to be Jaden Reed, who it's not going to be now? He's hurt. We'll talk about that. Which Packers wideout will it be? After the first 2 weeks, it's none of them. It's Tucker Kraft. And so Tucker Kraft has gone from a player that you started as a lower tight end one to now a guy that is going to be in your lineup moving forward until further notice.
I think he's just the best option in the passing game right now. He's got the most consistent role. And I think on top of that, he just looks really good, Fabs. And I know that's not like breaking analysis or like anything that's going to get a bunch of clicks on X, but like he just looks awesome. And he's running over defenders and he's making plays after the catch. And Matt LaFleur scheming ways to get him touches. Mm-hmm. Man, there's just very few tight ends right now in dynasty leagues that I would prefer over him. You go to Bowers, that's an easy one. McBride's an easy one. After those top 2, I mean, I think we can have a discussion with all of these guys. Like, I'll give you an example, and I know this is cherry picking a little bit. George Kittle was tight end 5 going into the month of August. Mm-hmm. There's no way if I have Tucker Kraft, I'm trading him for George Kittle. And especially now with the injury. Now, what about someone like Colston Loveland, who we thought he got open well on tape, but didn't have a big fantasy day with Chicago? Are you trading Kraft for Loveland? Probably not.
I'd probably be standing pat at this point, right? Especially if I'm a team that has championship aspirations this year.
All right, let me give you another one. Let me give you another NFC North tight end. Would you rather have Tucker Kraft or Sam Laporta moving forward?
Laporta. I'd rather have Laporta.
Okay. What about TJ Hawkinson?
See, that one's close. And you know what? It's hard to because TJ did nothing in week 1. But we all know his resume, and he's not an old tight end. With that being said, I'd still rather have Hawkinson. But Marcus, the gap has shrunk pretty quickly in a couple of weeks.
I got news for you, buddy. You're already talking about him then. If you're valuing him in that range, over Kittle.
I know, right? Yeah.
He's already top 6. I think the question is now is like, what's the ceiling here? Could he surpass players like Laporta? I won't be surprised. Honestly, I will not be surprised if we get there here in a month.
But you can also throw in guys. I mean, if we're talking about dynasty here, which we are, where does Harold Fannin Jr. rank right now?
He's high, but all of a
sudden after one big game, is he in the top 10, top 12? I mean,
probably. I my point is that I've seen enough from Kraft this year and from what we saw last year that I want to be aggressive here. And if I have to give up Sam Laporta, I think I would do it. I'm that bullish on Tucker Kraft, especially now. And we should mention this: Jaden Reed has a broken collarbone. He's going to be out the next 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, that is usually an injury that takes longer than 6 to 8 weeks. Speaking of two Cowboy fans who watched their quarterback break his collarbone like 15 times. Jayden Reed in the final year of his deal, right? They did bring back Christian Watson, but he's not going to play until November. Matthew Golden put up a goose egg in week 2. I just don't see how Tucker Kraft doesn't get 7-8 targets every week now moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And the wide receiver group, you can't start any of these guys, at least with any kind of confidence. Romeo Dobbs might be their best fantasy wide receiver. He had 28 yards in a touchdown last night. That's all he had. He had 12 points, basically. He led all wide receivers in snaps played. Golden was second. But you and I have had the conversation about Matthew Golden. Now, listen, I'm not going to kill the guy after 2 weeks. Neither one of us thought he was an alpha. Neither one of us thought that he was an alpha. And, you know, I get the sleeper appeal because of the speed, and he was drafted in the first round. But here's the deal, folks. I mean, like, there's just, even with Jayden Reed out now for 2 months, it's still going to be hard to figure out which Packers wide receiver you want to utilize on a regular basis in fantasy. And maybe the answer is there isn't one. Like, now that Reed's going to be out, I mean, do they use Savion Williams a little bit more? I mean, the Packers just spread the ball around. And that sucks when it comes to fantasy, but not if you have Tucker Kraft. The wide receivers are going to be a headache probably all year long. But Tucker Kraft, to Marcus's point, has emerged and has become, I mean, at worst, the top 8 dynasty tight end.
One more thing on Green Bay before we move on to the Washington side of things. Jordan Love looked really good in this game. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Jordan Love is he's willing to throw the ball down the field. He actually had a touchdown to Jayden Reed. The play that he got hurt was a beautiful pass to the pylon where Jayden Reed scored, brought back by a holding call. But we're through 2 games now, 480 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He's running a little bit more, which it's not really his forte. But I think it just shows how banged up he was last year compared to this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year was a down year. The injuries, they really leaned on the run a little bit more in the second half with Josh Jacobs. They found something that worked. But yeah, he has looked good. And here's something funny. I was doing my Thursday night football hit for Westwood One. And you know I love my trends. And it's so funny because the 2 that I mentioned last night, 100% hit. So since the start of last season, no defense in the league has given up fewer fantasy points to road quarterbacks than Green Bay. Now, Jayden Daniels had a good game from a fantasy standpoint. He had 19.7 points. You know, some of it was a little garbage time.
A lot of it was garbage time.
Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way. But here's one of the 2 trends that I mentioned last night on the show. Only 2 visiting quarterbacks have thrown for more than 225 yards at Lambeau Field in the last 10 regular season games. Jayden Daniels, 200 yards last night. On the flip side, you're talking about Jordan Love. He had thrown for 229 or more passing yards in 11 of 15 career games at Lambeau Field, where he had played at least 50 snaps. And in one of those games, he had 228. We look at the player props last night, it was right around 229, and he went over that. So follow those trends. Jordan Love is going to be good at home more often than not.
Probably.
And if a quarterback goes into Green Bay, and I know Jayden Daniels had a good game, but again, garbage time, beware.
All right, let's talk about the Washington side of things because this was a really gross game by their offense. You mentioned it, a lot of garbage time, a lot of empty calories here in the passing game. But what did they do at running back now that Austin Ekeler is out? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered the most this week. And let's break it down. We're going to go with Tucker Kraft. He was unbelievable, making plays after the catch, was a big-time target for Jordan Love. I just think he's one of the best tight ends in the NFL right now, and he's going to help you win a dynasty championship this year. And this week's performance wasn't a fluke. That's what we've been seeing from Tucker Kraft all last season in week 1 and now in week 2. Tucker Kraft is officially on a streak. And just like Tucker Kraft delivered for his fantasy owners, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday that you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. A promo period ends on 11/18. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Like for me, I've been really getting into some of the live action. Like I like to see how the first quarter of a game plays out and then place a bet. But you guys also know I love the futures market. Like I love nothing more than waking up on a Tuesday, checking the odds, seeing who's favored to win, like the NFC East, who's the current MVP favorite, and some of my favorite awards are like Rookie of the Year, who's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year, and it's all available on FanDuel. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or watching your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add just a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Phelps, let's talk about this Washington backfield situation first, because this is a big bummer. Austin Ekeler got hurt late in the game, really in garbage time. Non-contact injury. It was an Achilles injury, was ruled out right away. I'm just going to assume that it's a ruptured Achilles, which means he's going to be out for the rest of the year. And honestly, I hate to be this morbid, but that's probably the end of Austin Ekeler's career. Like most of these running backs in their late 20s, 30s that have an Achilles tear like that, it's pretty devastating. So what does this Washington backfield look like, not only for this season, but moving forward?
Yeah, first off, Austin's a friend of mine. I texted him last night, and I'm real bummed out for him.
Yeah.
Because, listen, Austin Ekeler for 3-4 years was an elite fantasy running back, an elite guy. Unfortunately, in the NFL, in life too, father time comes for everyone. And he was fixing to have a productive season, and I'm really just bummed out for him. And I hope he is able to come back at some point, but time will tell. Now, this is going to be, and I hate to, talk about this because Austin got hurt, but now this is going to end up being a situation where every week you're probably going to have Bill Krosky-Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, and also Chris Rodriguez active. I get it. Like all the excitement with Bill after week 1, he played 15 snaps last night. But it was a negative game script too. Like obviously, Austin led the team with 36 snaps before he got hurt. I would assume that Krosky-Merritt's going to be their starter now moving forward, but this is going to be a committee. So 15 snaps. I'm hoping, we're talking about Bill Krosky-Merritt, pushing 30 snaps, 35 snaps a game, as we get deeper into the season. Last night was an absolute bummer, but again, negative game script. And, the week before he played a little bit more, but he got more productive opportunities. So, don't throw him out just yet. It was a bad situation. It was a bad night. And now with Austin likely out for the season, that means there's going to be more touches spread around. So we'll find out more about that in terms of what the depth chart is going to look like, I'm sure, going into next week. But for me, I would think Krosky-Merritt's going to be the starter with McNichols and Rodriguez in some way, shape, or form behind him on the depth chart, with all three playing at some level.
I just think back to 2 months ago when we were talking about Brian Robinson and Austin Ekeler leading this backfield. And now we're going into week 3.
I know.
And it's not going to be either guy. And I understand the excitement for Krosky-Merritt because he is an explosive player. But if you're thinking from a dynasty perspective, I don't want to be over leveraged on really anybody in this backfield, because you're talking about a 7th round pick and late round picks. And it just feels like a spot now that Washington's either going to draft high next year or sign somebody in free agency. Maybe they're in like the Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall market if those guys become available. It feels like a very fluid situation. And now you're probably renting these players for the next 14 games, 15 games.
Well, let's give the kid a chance and see what kind of opportunities that he can create for himself.
Well, I guess my point is, I think I would be shocked if they didn't bring in somebody else next year, right? Like somebody else to pair him with.
I'm not saying that I disagree with you, but I don't necessarily think that person would end up being like the guy who just takes over the backfield completely.
No, I agree.
If Krosky Merritt looks good this season, which they obviously like him because they traded away Brian Robinson, then maybe there is no need for that. And I get it, 7th round pick. Marcus Colston was a 7th round pick. Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. So it's not like it's not insane for a guy to have a good career, coming off the board, that late. So I'm not giving up hope on him just yet.
Let's talk about the rest of Washington's offense just in general, because honestly,
do we have to? Oh my God, Marcus, do we have to?
It was rough. And
yeah,
I don't want to overreact to a road game against what I think might be the best team in the NFL, because it's whatever.
By the way, real quick, after the game, did you watch?
Yeah, we don't have to talk about Michael.
Thank you, Jerry. Stupid. All right, go ahead.
This passing game in general does not look great. And again, the Packer game is whatever. The Giants game, they had some success. I think Jane Daniels threw for 230 yards and a touchdown, but it's not this high flying unit that we saw last year. And maybe it's just some week one jitters and some new pieces. But like, my thing that I'm concerned about, Fabs, is nobody was getting open. Nobody. And everything that Jane Daniels was throwing to was contested. Deebo Samuel's not creating separation. Noah Brown's not getting open. Even Terry McLaurin is struggling to get open. Zach Ertz never has gotten open. This feels like an offense that's going to be very up and down all season long.
McLaurin is the interesting one, because over at Sports Illustrated, among my wide receiver busts, I had him listed. And I'm not saying he's going to be a disaster, but he's not going to score 13 touchdowns like he did last year. He's coming off a magical season. He held out. Like, he'll be fine. But I mean, he's scored 14 and a half points in 2 games so far this season. He's killed you. He's hurt you. And Deebo Samuel, say what you will about him getting open, not getting open, etc. He scored 17 points last night. Deebo Samuel right now, today, as we sit talking about him at this podcast, is the best fantasy wide receiver in Washington.
And a little bit of that is because of the touchdown he got late in the game.
Yes.
But I think
the thing is, like, I mean, points are points. Right?
And I wanted to say about McLaurin, like McLaurin got some garbage time receptions just to bring us total up to 5 catches for 48 yards.
Yeah,
like
he did. Yep.
we were 3/4 of the way through this game, and he had basically nothing for you.
You're going to have to wait on McLaurin, I think, and especially when he's going into a situation where it's Lambeau. The Packers have a great defense. There's going to be some ebbs and flows with Terry McLaurin early in the season. But again, I mean, I warned people. I said he was not going to do what he did last year again. It's just magical season. Beware. As far as Zach Ertz goes, though, Zach Ertz has 30 points this year in 2 games. 30. I know. He scored 18 points last night. He had another touchdown. This guy is the freaking, like, I don't know if he's found the fountain of youth, but I mean, you can't kill this guy. He's just we were talking about Ben Sennett and everything. Nope. Zach Ertz is the tight end block. And if you know what I mean, you know what I mean to younger tight ends. It's just, he did it to McBride for a year, and now he's doing it to Sennett.
Did Dallas Goedert, I think, right? Was it Goddard there for a year?
Right. Ertz. And I'm guilty of this too. Ertz is almost a must start every week unless you have an elite tight end, which is bananas, especially in a dynasty league where this guy's, in his mid to late 30s. But production is production. Jaden Daniels loves this guy. He loves him. And so he's not in dynasty. You're like, oh, Harold Fannin, I want this guy. And, you Tucker Kraft. Yeah, of course. But Zach Ertz has gone 2 games and scored a touchdown in each game and has 30 points in the first 2 games of the season. Most tight ends are not going to get that. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a 15-point per game season for Zach Ertz, but he's had a damn good start. And if you have a tight end, like, if you're juggling Ertz and say Jake Ferguson or something like that, listen, Zach Ertz is probably going to be in your lineup more often than not, as long as he stays hot.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we always look for the youth movement in dynasty leagues, but it's guys like Zach Ertz, who is being drafted as tight end 32 in startup drafts this offseason, who ultimately help you win dynasty championships. Like, it's nice to have a roster full of 25, 26-year-olds, all that are ascending, but it's guys like Zach Ertz who you pick up for nothing, or you get him as a throw-in in a trade that end up being the difference. And I would not be surprised if Ertz is one of these guys that finishes as a top 5 tight end this year and nobody values him that way at all in dynasty leagues. And you should.
He just keeps on ticking, man. He is a very good player. Listen, Zach Ertz. I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of school here, but I mean, like, if he keeps doing this, like, we're talking about a borderline Hall of Fame guy.
Oh, stop it.
He's had a long career, man,
I don't
and his numbers have been pretty good. His numbers have been pretty good.
All right. Now we're getting crazy. All right, let's do some.
No way.
I know. That's all right. If he goes into the Hall of Fame, I will be there because I do not believe it's going to happen. I will make the drive to go see it.
He's had a lot of good years in his career statistically. Yeah. So
gotcha.
He's had. And wait a minute, was he on the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl, or no?
2017. Yeah.
So he's got a Super Bowl too.
Yeah,
just saying.
All right, let's talk about some players to promote from your bench into your starting lineups here in week 2. People get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not about just playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep the game moving forward. And this week's moment that moved the game forward is Jordan Love. I thought he was absolutely outstanding on Thursday Night Football. He was making some unbelievable throws down the field, and it's nice just to see quarterbacks be aggressive. I've kind of grown up in the era of quarterbacks that like to dink and dunk. It's fun to see the deep passing game again. So for that reason, Jordan Love is our player of the week. He's what keeps fans excited and keeps moving the game forward. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Podcast. Tyler, the Madman Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Fabs, let's do some commotion. Players to put from your bench into your starting lineups in week 2. Who do you got?
We'll start off with J.J. McCarthy, who had 3 really bad quarters that had me hoping that the Vikings would bring in Carson Wentz. I was freaking out so bad, man. I mean, I was so guilty of it, but then he ended up finishing with 22 points. He's got Atlanta this week. They've given up the second most points to quarterbacks dating back to last season. Baker had a good game against them last week. So I think you can put J.J. McCarthy into your lineup if you're in need. Maybe you have Brock Purdy, who's not going to play, who's going to be out 2 to 5 weeks. I think McCarthy is going to be worth a look. At running back, J.K. Dobbins. What did I tell you back in the preseason? Who was going to be the starting running back in Denver?
We already taken victory laps.
I told you. And he's the better back right now. Listen, I mean, maybe RJ Harvey's better in Dynasty, of course. But last week, Dobbins led the team in touches and fantasy points, and he got the start, and now he's got the Colts. And their defense has allowed 15-plus points to running backs 10 times dating back to last year, including Achane, who had not a great game in real football, but had 16.5 fantasy points for our teams, and so that's good. So J.K. Dobbins, listen, man, I mean, after what happened last season, I'm like, damn, I mean, I was wrong about him going in. I'm not going to be wrong again on J.K. So, yes, he needs to be in your lineup. And then one of my favorite names to say, and it's not Cam Scattaboo. It's Kayshon Boutte, baby. He went off last week. 8 targets, 6 catches, 103 yards, scored 16 fantasy points. He led all wide receivers in snaps played with 58. Demario Douglas was second with 45. He also saw 38.7% of the Patriots targeted air yards. And guess who they have this week? Miami. What does their defense do? It stinks. So Boutte is a guy you got to think about. Again, if you come out here and say, I started Boutte over Tyreek Hill, which maybe isn't a bad thing, I don't want to hear it. Don't get nuts. But in situations where you need a wide receiver this week, you need a flex player this week, I got to be honest with you. I should have listened to myself with damn Kyle Williams. They said these rookie wide receivers for the Patriots.
It's week
never
one.
Pan out.
It's week one.
It never pan out. I know. I get it. I'm overreacting, but this is what we do. But you can't tell me that Boutte doesn't have a nice rapport with Drake May. And when you're getting, almost 40% of the targeted air yards, you're playing more snaps than every other wide receiver on the roster. You're getting targeted more. In the first week, I get it. It's 1 week. But what did we say, Marcus? We got to go to school. And I went to school on Boutte in week 1. So, and the matchup's good. I mean, if he was playing the Broncos, I'd be like, hell no, I'm not playing him. He's got Miami this week. So that's a good matchup.
All right. I got 2 slot receivers that I think you should be playing in every flex spot in your league. So let's start with
one of them is going to be guaranteed.
Well, I'm going back to the well with Calvin Austin.
I knew it.
Picked last week. And here's the reason why. This is going to be, everybody's going to call this the DK Metcalf revenge game, right? I think Seattle is going to do their best to try to take away DK Metcalf and make Aaron Rodgers throw the ball to somebody else. And I think Calvin Austin is likely going to be the guy getting those targets. We should mention that their top slot corner, Devin Witherspoon, who is an awesome player, has missed the last 2 practices with a knee injury, not likely to play. The Seahawks are going to be down 3 of their top 5 defensive backs going into this matchup in Pittsburgh. They're coming from the West Coast to the East Coast to play a 1 o'clock kickoff. That's been traditionally really hard for West Coast teams. I think Calvin Austin, who has already been involved in this offense, he's going to have another strong game. I want to start him everywhere. He's only owned in 12% of dynasty leagues. If he's on your waiver wire, pick him up, put him into your lineup this week because he's going to hit.
Love it. I'm playing him in Scott Fish this week. After he was on my bench last week because I lost Xavier Worthy, although we may not be losing him for that long, which is good news. But yeah, Calvin Austin is a guy. We talked about it like last year. He popped a couple of times. Like, okay, interesting. Back of mind kind of thing. And you can poo-poo Aaron Rodgers all you want. He's 41 years old. He's over the hill. Blah 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 blah. His entire career, he's helped wide receivers score fantasy points. His entire career. Devontae Adams last year was the wide receiver 6 when he joined the Jets. Garrett Wilson for the season was the wide receiver 10 1 year ago. And Rodgers is doing the same thing. He's going to do it for DK, which is why I love DK this year. And it looks like, and this was a good pull from Marcus, that Calvin Austin could get a little of that benefit as well.
One more. Would you be interested in a starting receiver who had 8 targets last week, 6 catches, and the opponent they're playing this week just lost their top cornerback due to an injury? Would that interest you?
I'd certainly have a little interest.
I think Wan'Dale Robinson is somebody that you need to be starting this week for the Giants. I know the name Wan'Dale Robinson does not get anybody excited, and I know Russell Wilson is whatever. But I don't think this Cowboys defense is going to be very good this year. And you're going up against a team that just lost DeRon Bland, their top corner, to a injury. The Cowboys are going to be playing, I think, a safety in the slot. Wan'Dale Robinson is not sexy by any means, but he gets targets. He gets a lot of catches. And if you're in a PPR league, he's going to get you 12 points, it seems like, every single week. I think this is a really good option if you're down some receivers. Like, let's say you have like Xavier Worthy and you need somebody just to come in and give you some double-digit production. I think Wan'Dale Robinson can do it for you this week.
Yeah, strictly PPR. And I don't know how many people are playing standard anymore. I mean, those people started their league in like 1974. So, I mean, like standard does not exist. I think the one issue you have to worry about with the Giants is that, can Russell Wilson withstand the pass rush of Michael Parsons?
That's what I'm saying. It just, to me, this game it's going to be a lot of quick passes. Yeah.
No, I won't ever.
No, neither way.
Wan'Dale Robinson is a fine flex in PPR. Yes.
Yeah.
The target.
And again,
93 catches last year.
I know. And
forget that.
The ceiling's not particularly high, but I do think the floor is very high because we've seen like Brian Dable is going to give him a bunch of layup targets, and those targets turn into catches. And yeah, maybe they're only going for 8 yards, but who cares? If you're getting that kind of volume, you need that guy in your fantasy lineups. And I think this week is a very, very good matchup for him. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every single day. Check out the show on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy week 2, and we'll see you back here on Monday to break it all down.